Thank you, YouTube friends, for joining me. I'm Megan, and today is what I'm going to call an inspired everyday somatic yoga practice. And I want to break down the word inspired because in Latin, the root is inspirare, which means to breathe or to blow into. And to me, to be inspired is the opposite of what often gets in our way in doing these practices in the first place. So, as I talk about this, I just want you to come down into a comfortable position for yourself. So, you can see I have a blanket on my mat. You can take your legs out long, put something underneath it, put a blanket underneath your head if you prefer that, but find a comfortable position. Because what I want you to think about is, what state of awareness are you in now as you come down onto the ground? What state of awareness are you in? And I'm going to read a passage from one of my favorite books, Joy's Way by Dr. Brew Joy. Are we too fat, too short, too tall, too uneducated, too intellectual, too emotional, too feminine, too masculine, too strange, too undisciplined, too weak, too immature, too compulsive, too unspiritual, too ungifted? Do we criticize ourselves because we smoke or don't smoke, because we drink or we don't drink, because we are religious or not religious? The list of possibilities is endless. All of these are rooted in comparison. And to me, the opposite of inspiration is comparison. So think again what your state of awareness is starting this practice, and how did it feel when I was reading those? Maybe there's some other ones that came up that you are obstructing yourself in ways of thinking you're too uncoordinated or you're too tight to do these practices. But then again, you're here. So thank you for being here. What ways do you get in your own way by comparing yourself? And just pause for a moment to think about that before we move. How do you get in your own way? And it's so easy nowadays with social media. We see people doing movement practices and think, oh yeah, I could do that too. And then we can't do it, and then we don't want to do anything. So in today's practice, I want to inspire you to follow me, but also create what feels like more freedom, more play, more inspiration for you. So starting from this space on the ground, just slowly hug your knees into your chest. You can hold the backs of the thighs or the shins or whatever you find, and start to make some circles with the back. Move your legs around. You can keep your knees bent. What will inspire you to do this every day, to bring movement into your body every day in a way that you can connect more deeply with yourself, that you can increase your state of awareness or better your state of awareness? Simple movements. And then if this feels pretty good, you could do the same thing. Just take your legs up towards the sky, maybe arms out to the sides, and make some circles again. And notice how now you're going to call a little bit more on your core muscles, perhaps. Whatever position you want your legs in, wide apart, close together, just making circles. How does that feel? And if it's too much, go back to bent knees or somewhere in between. We'll pause for a moment with our legs to our sides. Sometimes we call this happy baby. You can hold the backs of the thighs, your ankles, or your feet, and rock again, letting the thighs fall to either side of your body. And maybe it's just your pelvis, but now if it feels okay, get your shoulder blades moving too. Rock from one shoulder blade to the other. Feel yourself rolling through the base of the skull. So this is movement. And let go of any of your defenses of it should look like this, only certain postures and certain alignment. What does it feel like to be present in your body? And then we'll take our legs down for a moment. We're going to start to work with the left side. So your right foot could stay on the ground with the knee bent, or you could take it out long. Depends what feels right for you. But take your left leg and your arms can stay rested at your side. As you inhale, extend up, feel that stretch through the back of the thigh. If your leg's way back here, maybe push it forward a little more so you can get more into the full extension. As you breathe out, take it down. Just the left leg. Say hello to your left leg. What is your state of awareness of your left leg from the toes to the hip? And if you're doing it your breath, you inhale and extend, and exhale, come down. The breath is the inspiration. Doesn't have to be, though. You can also just notice how you're breathing. And take one more up there. And now with the leg extended, move your toes in any way that feels playful for you. So you can squeeze and release them, spread them apart. Just play with moving your toes and then move your ankle however you want to move it. You can point and flex it. You can make circles. Some way to come into your left ankle without expectations. Sort of letting yourself be vulnerable. And the nice thing about doing a home yoga practice with a video is you're not comparing yourself at this moment to anybody else. Certainly not me. What does it feel like to move in your own body? Doesn't matter what it looks like. And then we're going to relax that down. If your right leg is straight, place the foot on the ground. Cross your left ankle on your right thigh. And just start for a moment by checking your pelvis. Make sure it's in a comfortable position. Then lift your right leg off the ground. Again, you might want to take your arms out to your sides, but keep your jaw and your shoulders relaxed. And see if you can just give your left leg a ride on your right leg. You can make those circles again, around and around. So if you've seen this done before, however you do it, it's going to look different. There's no comparison. Just moving in circles. We can't create movement in our own bodies by watching others. We create movement in our body by being present in our body. Seems to make sense, but think about that. It's making these circles through the hips. And if there's a point where you just want to stop and hold the back of the right thigh, you could extend your right leg if that feels better. And just be still for a few breaths. Notice where you feel stretching and where you feel compression in your body. And I could make suggestions, but you might feel it differently than someone else, than certainly how I feel it. Where is the inspiration in this position? Maybe just look to your breath. How are you breathing? Remember the term inspirare means to breathe. If you're breathing, you're practicing. And we'll uncross that. Take your right foot back down, left foot down, and widen your feet all the way to the edges of your mat or wider than your buttocks, your hips. Keep your right knee pointing up. And now as you inhale, tip onto the big toe side of the left foot. Think of taking your left femur bone forward and to the right. And then as you breathe out, you can lift back up if you want to do it to your breath. This is our internal rotation of the hip. Just noticing the movement in the hip and the leg. If you want to add a little more, if you're inspired to do so, as the leg comes in, reach your left arm overhead. Get a full body stretch to the left side. Breathe out and come back. Breathe in and stretch. I like to let my head roll. So much of the practice is not what we do, but what we say to ourselves. You can't even compare your own body today to how it was yesterday or the day before or how it'll be tomorrow. What is it right now? If you feel like breathing into your left lung to create more space, that's another way to inspire and use your breath. As you're breathing in, breathe into that left lung. Feel the expansion. Breathe out and empty. Again, you can continue to move, or you may find a spot where you just want to stop and be still. And that nice left side long stretch. Watch what you're saying. There is no room for I'm too tight or I'm this or I'm that. Because any of those I'ms are probably coming from comparing yourself to someone else or to yourself at a different day, a different stage of your life. This feels very different in my body than when I did it 10 years ago. What does it feel like for you? And then bring your arm and your leg back and just take both legs out long just for a few breaths. Be still. Just notice the two sides of your body, the left and the right. If we were to divide your body with a plumb line coming up the center of your spine and all the way through your legs, what do you feel on the two sides? Sometimes some of our best inspiration comes in being aware of the change, of the awakening. And the awakening right now is, what do you feel in your body? Is the left side more awake? Is there more clarity? Is it heavier or lighter? Because that can inspire you to do this again, the other side. So we'll start with the right leg now. And you can keep both feet on the ground as you bring the right leg in. Or if you want a little stretch and it's comfortable for your left leg, take your left leg out long. Press your right thigh bone a little bit forward so the knee's right over the front of the hip instead of back here. And then feel your knee and your foot. And as you breathe in, extend up. Just a simple knee joint movement. As you breathe out, let it come down. See if you can keep the back body supported by the ground, shoulders and jaw relaxed, the spine's relaxed. And just moving in and out of your beautiful hinge knee joint. Notice this relationship between moving your knee and the muscles in the front and the back of the thigh. Does that inspire you in some way? Just be present and feel. And then next time you're in the extension, you can keep that there. Feel free to just wiggle your toes. Sometimes imagine I'm playing my toes like piano keys. So if there's any sort of imagery that helps to inspire you in the movements, or dipping your toes in a nice warm lake, any sort of water. And then feel your ankle and just move your ankle however you want. You can point and flex it, but it also goes side to side. It can go in circles, right? So play with your ability to move your right ankle and staying present in whatever sensations come out of it. And then we'll be taking that leg down. And as you take it down, bend your left leg again. Place your left foot on the ground. Take your right ankle and cross it somewhere on your left thigh. Pause for a moment to see. Sometimes when we cross that leg, then the right hip comes up towards our ribs. So you might want to push it away just a little bit. Create space in the pelvis in the front of the right hip. And then feel your left leg. Your left leg is strong and it's going to lift up. And just give your right leg some circles. Give it a ride. Can your left leg, the strength of the left leg, give the right leg a ride? Wherever your hips want to go. Let go of any of your defenses, which include telling yourself that you're this way or you're that way in those comparison modes. Let go of any ideas of what you think this should feel like. What does it feel like? Be present in the sensation of the body and the feelings of your breath. And if there's a place where you want to just stop the movement, you could even do it with your left foot on the ground. You take hands to the back of the thigh, to your right shin. It's really up to you. If there's a place you just want to hang out where you feel inspired by your body, by the way it talks to you through sensation. And then if you've stopped, take your left foot back down to the ground and uncross your lovely right leg. Take your feet a little bit wider than your hips. You can keep your left knee pointing up towards the sky. You might feel the big toe and the inner knee on the right leg. And as you breathe in, reach that right thigh bone towards the front left corner of your mat or towards your left toes. As you breathe out, come back. And just this gentle rocking sensation. Maybe it's not gentle though. Maybe there's a lot going on, and that's okay too. What does it feel like for you? If you feel comfortable and safe and you're relaxed on the ground, you can add your right arm reaching overhead and get long through your right side as you breathe in. Breathe out and come back. Maybe just letting your head roll whichever way it seems to want to roll. Creating movement for the sake of movement and letting the movement be the inspiration to keep moving. Because you're curious. What's next? What does it feel like? And what does it feel like in the movement? And what does it feel like in stillness, perhaps? Just stopping. You can breathe into your right lung. Notice the spaciousness that you've created in your right side, and that right lung is more available to you than your left. Is that an inspiration to breathe into your right lung? Last breath out. You can take your arm down, take your leg in, and we'll just take both legs in. And we had made circles earlier. Do that again with your knees bent or legs straight. It's up to you. Just make some circles again and see how that feels. Rock side to side. Get your shoulder blades involved, almost like you're tipping over if you'd like. Remember that playfulness will help to inspire you too. Just rocking back and forth. And then we're going to place the feet on the ground and see if we can move a little bit more from the pelvis. So you might have noticed when you're rocking different parts of the back body, back of the pelvis touching the ground. So think of your tailbone and then push your tailbone into the ground. Then think of the back of your right hip, push that into the ground. Then your low back and low ribs, push that down. And then your left hip, press the back of the left hip down. So what we're doing is if it's like you're painting circles on the ground with your tailbone, the back of the right hip, low back and low ribs, and the left hip. And now the legs can follow, but see if you can move from your pelvis. Some inspiring circles for the center of your universe. I like to imagine a string between my nose and my tail. As the pelvis circles, so does the head. You can take that paintbrush on the back of the pelvis and put another one on the back of the skull and make a little circle with the skull. Maybe you want to change directions. Is it pleasurable? Does it keep your mind occupied and interested? Just enough without stressing you out or causing anxiety. Just rolling. And then pause again. We're going to come up to a seated position. So you can roll to your side first and relax, or you can rock up. And if you want to rock, you could rock a few times, hold the backs of the legs, use your core, and come on up. That's part of the play. So we're going to take our feet to the ground. And first we want to find our sit bones and be comfortable on our sit bones. And you may want to take your hands behind you, turn your fingers away, or you can even make a fist with your hands. And then widen your feet as wide as you can go comfortably. And we're going to inhale and start to drop both knees to the right. and exhale and come back up. And we did this movement. We did its external rotation of the right leg, internal rotation of the left leg or hip. We did this on our back, but now you're doing it in a seated position. And you might feel the legs moving. You could feel it from the toes. Imagine your big toe and little toe. If they could tell you what it felt like, or if they were leading the movement. You can move from your knees. You can move from your hips. And then the other part we could add on here, if we'd like, is instead of hands behind you, taking your hands to your hips, bring your shoulders more over your hips, and add a little bit of rotation through the core. So turning through your torso and turning back. You might even lead with your head or your shoulders, and then let the legs follow. Just flow with whatever is. That's your inspiration. So if it feels better to have hands on the ground, do that. Rolling back and forth. A little bit of hip mobility, a little bit of rotation for your spine, head and neck. And we'll take the next one around. So if your hands are on the ground, bring your hands to the ground somewhere by that right knee. And we're going to come down on the right leg just a little bit and just rock side to side. Just rock on that right knee, outer hip. And this is why I do have a blanket here. So if you don't, you might want to put some extra padding. So you can stay more like this with that right leg sticking out. Or what you can do is press into your hands. Begin to reach the left leg back, because if you're getting that left leg back, you're going to get more stretch through the front of your hip flexors, and you might even rock from your left hip. Now, if that still feels good and you're inspired to do a little bit more, then what I like to do is to come on to the front of my right shin, top of the foot, hands are on the ground so they can support some of my weight, left leg's reaching back, and again, just rocking. Think of taking your hips from side to side. Doesn't have to have a name. Doesn't have to have a final pose. Just be curious and see if you can find some pleasure in the movement. Creating energy in the body through the movement. If there's a place you just want to be still, you could do that too. All right. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to slide onto our right side. So in coming on our right side, if you want to take a blanket to put underneath your head or something underneath your head, please feel free to do that. We'll come down and first just accept the ground underneath you on that right side. Place your left hand on your left hip. Acknowledge your left hip. And remember, we were doing those circles. We were painting with a brush. Well, now imagine your hip's got a spoon in it. And you're going to stir your hip. You can put your hand right there and just make some circles. And if it doesn't start to go right away, then think of rubbing the left thigh on top of the right thigh. Make little circles from the knee and the thigh. And notice how the hip responds, and then see if you can let the knee and thigh be quiet and move from your hip. Just sort of warming it up. You can go both directions. And then you can do the same thing with your shoulder. So can you roll your shoulder and your hip in circles? They can go in the same direction, different directions. Left shoulder and hip. Find some mobility. Arm and leg can be relaxed, and notice how you're creating spaciousness in your torso and then compressing your torso maybe. And then we'll stop for a moment. You might slide that right leg a little bit further out and then take your left leg long, and we're going to move in and out of some extension for the left hip and also a little rotation. So this one, as you breathe in, take the left leg behind you, stretch it out behind you. As you breathe out, you can bend your knee and slide it forward towards your belly. So think of squeezing it towards your rib cage. So that's the movement for the leg. Inhale, Take it back behind you. I like to keep my knee straight so I get more of a stretch through the front of the thigh. Exhale, bend the knee and bring it forward. So the other option is on the inhale, you're still going to extend, but if it feels okay, you can keep this leg more of in a straight position. You'll get a lot more stretch through your hamstrings there. See if you're inspired to do so. So finding first just the movement through the hip. Think of your hip like a pendulum, and it's going back and forth. The top of the pendulum is right at the hip, and the foot's moving. And then we'll add the upper body. So as you inhale, reach that leg back, reach your left arm in the opposite direction. So left arm over and to the right, left leg back and to the left. So opposite directions, big stretch. You can breathe into your left lung. As you breathe out and draw that leg forward, take your left hand to your left rib cage and just let your left shoulder blade and elbow fall to the floor behind you. There's a nice rotation in that. But we're just falling in gravity. Inhale. Reach and extend. Exhale. Rotate. Just fall. See if you can find a nice pattern for yourself between your breath, the true inspirer, and the movement of your body. Always the invitation to stop and be still and just breathe in any position that feels good for you. I'm going to stop in the rotation for a moment. Just be still. What surfaces in the stillness? Where does your mind go when you're still? What does your breath do? Wherever you're resting, come out of that. And part of the inspiration is noticing. Do you need more movement? Do you need more stillness? And honoring that. So I'm still on my right side. If you're still with me here, you're going to lift up your left leg to about the height of the hip. And just start to make sort of some, like you can make circles. You can bounce it just slowly a little bit. Just that left leg. And I imagine I'm plugging my thigh bone into my hip. So I'm going to feel some strengthening through the hip. And I start with the foot straight off the hip and just as high as the hip, but you can also go higher. You can go in front of you. You can go behind you. You could also reach through your arm, getting a little more side stretch, reach through that left arm. Or the other one I like to play with because I like to move my arms and legs at the same time is as I'm bouncing my leg, I can internally and externally rotate my arm. So imagine turning a light bulb with your hand as you bounce your foot. Creating just enough sensation to keep you inspired. And we're going to take that one into a side stretch for a few breaths. So reach through the left arm and the leg if that's available. If there's too much pulling, you can bend your elbow. Just reach more from the armpit. Feel your left rib cage lift up. Breathe into your left lung. Don't need to qualify anything. Just let it be whatever it is. And then take the arm and the leg back in. And before we do all of that on the other side, come back onto your back. Back into what I call the space of grace, the still point where we can compare again, feel the left and right side of the body. And this is the comparison that I like. that I encourage, which is the inner comparison of your own two sides. The internal comparison of what we say your soma, everything from your skin and in, that only you can feel. It's not a comparison that anybody else can make because they can't see it. You have to feel it. And most of us are pretty good at creating comparisons in our mind, comparing ourselves to others. But can you compare yourself to yourself, the two sides? And letting the left and right side have a little conversation with each other. Just letting the ground receive the weight of the body. Everything relax. And then we'll be getting up again. So you might roll to one side, or you can rock a little bit, pulling your legs in. So I will often watch the dog. He doesn't compare himself to any other dogs. And he just does whatever he is inspired to do. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're not things that I want him to do. But that's the beauty of animals and instinct. We have some instinct too, and we have intuition. And I hope this helps you to tap into that. So we're coming back into a seated position. You can take your hands behind you for more support to start. Take your feet as wide as you can go comfortably. And now we'll be going to the left. So feel the pinky toe side of your left foot, big toe side of your right foot. As you breathe in, just start to rock a little bit at a time. As you breathe out, come back to knees up towards the sky, flat feet. Inhale into that rocking position. So now right leg is internally rotating. Left leg is externally rotating. And feel it. Where is the movement coming from? So where is it initiating? Is it your feet? You could try, if you're so inclined, to move from your feet. You can move from your knees. You can move from your hips. What I try to think is that if there's some part of my body that's really grumpy, maybe it doesn't want to lead, I ask it. And then if this is all going well and you want to add a little bit more, you could take your feet, or you sit on your feet, take your hands off the ground. You can just take them to your hips. And as you start to move your legs, let your torso rotate too, as far as it'll go. You might feel a little stuck. Work your way back. So inhale, rotate. I can turn around and see Milo eating his rock. I believe he's inspired to eat a rock right now. And you're rotating. So the movement can come from the feet and the legs. It could come from the torso. And I know for me, this is where I do get into the self-comparisons because this is my sticky side. It's a lot more difficult for me to do this. So if you're finding that, you can take your hands down. Use your hands to help you turn a little bit. Do whatever you need to create the movement in a way that's successful in your mind and your heart. There's no such thing as cheating or having to do it a certain way. That's comparison. And then we'll take it back around again. And next time you're there, if your hands are back here too, take your hands to the ground. And just let a little bit of weight go into that left hip first. Test it out. See how it feels. You can rock back and forth on more on the outer hip. Release there. And you can start to reach that right leg back to stretch out the top of the right thigh just a little bit. And then if that still feels good, so you could stay here and rock. You can even come down low and rock. Or what I like to do is take the left shin to the ground. Right leg back, so I'm stretching through my right leg and just gently rocking the hips from side to side. One of these days I'm going to count how many times in a day I see Milo do his down dog, his signature movement. I think if I did it as often as he did, my body would probably be a lot happier. But for now, rocking back and forth. All right, and then we're going to slide ourselves onto our left side. So you can slide that left leg out. Bring in a pillow or blanket for your head if you'd like. Coming onto your left side. See if you can land on your left side into a space that feels comfortable for you. And we'll start with just some circles in your right hip. So feel your right hip. You can place your hand there. Imagine you've got a spoon and your hip is a bowl. It is. It's sort of a bowl that tilts back and forth, right? Your pelvic bowl. And then stir that hip. If it doesn't start to move, you could slide the leg instead. Give it a little slide. Again, just flowing with whatever is. What's easy for you? Start with that and then keep creating. Move through any stickiness with a sense of curiosity and kindness. But keep moving. And if you wanted to add your shoulder, you could roll your right shoulder and your hip, same direction, different directions. Think of the bony landmarks in your hip, your collarbone, your right collarbone and shoulder blade, just moving those bones. Letting the arm and the leg go for a ride. And then relaxing. So we'll go into our extension with the leg. Might want to take your bottom left leg a little bit longer. Keep your hips stacked and feel your right leg lift it up just a little bit. And as you breathe in, take the right leg behind you. So you might slide the big toe on the floor. Or you can keep it lifted. But feel the stretch through the front of the hip crease, even through the front of the belly on the right side. As you breathe out, squeeze that leg in. You can keep it down on the ground or you can lift it up to you. Inhale, extend. And exhale, bring it in. I often add my head to this too. I find I look away on the inhale. So nose and toes don't want to see each other. And then my nose and my toes try to see each other. But all I get is knee. Reaching and drawing in. And if you find instead of a bent leg, you want to keep your leg long, a little more stretch in the outer hip, you can do it that way. So it's just extension for the hip and flexion. And then eventually we add the extension part, reach your arm. And then we're going to move that your whole torso into rotation. So we reach, and as you exhale, just slide. Let your arm be almost like dead weight, hand on the rib cage, right hand, and drop the elbow and the shoulder blade to the ground behind you. Let the head follow. Inhale, reach and lengthen through your right side. Reach in opposite directions with the fingers and toes. A cross movement, cross body, diagonal. And exhale, drop. So the other way you can think of it is the girdles. I call them the shoulder girdle and the pelvic girdle. Going in opposite directions. Creating that beautiful rotation in your torso. The lengthening of the torso. If you find another way to do this that's more inspiring, leave me a comment and let me know. But just the feel of the breath and the inhalation, how it can create space. Breathing into your right lung. That's the levity. And as you exhale, gravity, just letting the shoulder blade and the elbow fall. Even letting your right leg fall to the ground. And the opportunity to stop wherever you might want to. meet yourself in movement and stillness, and whatever it is that comes forward. Sensation, thoughts. There's no judgment, even of your own thoughts. You're the only one that can hear them, so you're the only one that can judge yourself in your own thoughts. If you're still somewhere, come back to center, stack your legs and your right shoulder over your left shoulder. Smile for a moment, for giving yourself this time as we finish up the right leg. You can reach through your right leg. So I like to reach through the heel, but plug the thigh bone in. So I feel the connection of the leg to my hip and my torso, and just sort of pulsate the leg up and down. You can make circles, be playful. And you can change the position of the leg, coming forward a little bit. Notice how you'll feel more of the muscles perhaps in the front of your thigh. You can go up higher, feeling your outer hip. Maybe, maybe not. No comparisons. And behind you. And last time I added the option of bringing your arm in so your arm could just reach and move. I like to do the internal and the external rotation of my shoulder from my arm. You're just turning a doorknob overhead. Can you just play and be present in whatever it is that your body shows you today? Because it won't be the same tomorrow, more than likely. And if I were able to ask all of you, you'd probably all have a very different experience. No comparisons. And then we'll stop and do just a nice right side body stretch so you can reach your right leg long. Take your right arm overhead. If there's too much pulling, bend your elbow. You can even just do this. Let's see if you can breathe into your right lung. How do you see yourself in your right side right now? Is there a specific place you go to? The leg, the arm, in the torso? What's inspiring you in your right side to stay present? You can let that go. And slowly roll yourself back onto your back. And this is a practice where I like to begin and end the same to see what's changed, what stayed the same. So draw your legs into your body. And we started by just drawing in and making little circles. And how does that feel to make those circles again? And the option was there to take your legs long and make circles. Is there a change, or what stayed the same? And then we went into that like happy baby leg pose. So you can take your legs wider apart, stretch the inner thighs. If you want to hold the backs of the thighs, your shins, your feet, you can do that. Or just let gravity take your thighs down. Gently rocking. Find the position where it's good for your hips, your thighs, your low back gets a nice little stretch. And compare for yourself. What can you find out in that self-comparison of the inner body? And then when you're ready, you can take your legs back down. And just taking this moment in time to be still and to be grateful. You can play the energy game. Just notice any parts of your body that make themselves known through sensation. So it could be more sensation, a movement, a dulling of sensation. If there's anything that wants to move to be a little bit more comfortable, give your body that. But just this opportunity to see what state of awareness you're in your own body. Has that increased? What is your state of awareness now of your own body, your own breath, your own thoughts? Maybe even connecting to something higher. Whatever it was that inspired you to go through this practice today with me, I'm grateful, thankful, and I hope that you continue to be inspired. You can stay here longer or take your time coming up. I had a final quote as you come up that I wanted to share with you. Again, this is from Brew Joy. We are far more than we possibly could wish, but we are herded into a narrow spectrum of beliefs about who and what we are. You are not a narrow spectrum. Be yourself. Be unique. It's the best you can be. Peace, joy, love, and light.